and I'll send it over to Facebook later. Okay, we are on over there. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Elizabeth Johnson, and I'm one of the four co-founders of One of Art. Wanawari is situated in a fifth generation Black-owned home, and we started in 2019 as a social practice art project to really see if arts and culture could be a solution for gentrification. Now, 6 years later, we've had countless arts exhibitions. We bought the home in collaboration with the family, and we're looking at other ways that arts and culture can also fight displacement and be a liberatory tool for Black folks. I'm also Wanawari's curator, and I'm excited to have with me Kristen Stain here today, an incredible artist. Um, uh, Kristen works primarily in ceramics, and they bridge their West African and Caribbean heritage with their background in illustration and product design. Their work investigates identity through clay, communal ritual, and ancestor memory. Shaped by a commitment to social practice and education, Stain is the founder of Black Clay, a workshop series for Black makers and steward of Aroko Cooperative, a design collective for Black liberation. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Stain.
Thank you so much, Elishaba. Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. And I'm really grateful to...
You're muted.
Am I? Can you hear me?
Grateful to, you're muted.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Kristen Stain, and I am excited to share about kind of my background and about my art practice. I'm gonna see if I can get this going. There we go. Yeah, so I guess it's hard for me to talk about myself without talking about where I came from and kind of like who and what made me. I am from Fresno, California, and both of my parents grew up there. I come from a very large family. My mother was the ninth of 10 children, raised by a pastor in West Fresno that is still up and running. Her and all of her siblings were artists, so I kind of grew up around music and drawing and painting. My aunts and uncles were my first art teachers. And then my father's family is from Texas, and also his mother is from Haiti. And so I just grew up with a lot of, family lore, and I've always been interested in our personal histories. My maternal grandfather marched with Dr. King when he came to Fresno. Coretta came to our family church. And so these are some of the stories that sort of like empowered me as a young person, and inspired me as well. I also want to talk about sort of like my non-familial influences. I am very impacted by the stories of like musicians, political workers, and artists, as well as athletes. I grew up an athlete from the age of 9 until my second year of college. And it wasn't just the things that these people did in their professional life, but also their personal journeys and stories have influenced me as well. And I kind of see myself in like a larger lineage of artistry and creativity. So while I grew up in a family that practiced art and loved art, and I was very much encouraged as a young person, I kind of grew up knowing that art should be my hobby rather than a career. Um, and when I first started college, I went to the University of Pittsburgh and was planning to be a political science major. I also walked onto the track team. I was there for about 2 years and loved the topics of history and politics and wanted to figure out how to be of service to people. But I quickly realized that that wasn't what I ultimately wanted to do with my life. And so I decided to go to an art college. So I moved to Los Angeles to go to the Art Center College of Design with the original intent of being a character designer for Disney and DreamWorks. That was also something that felt a bit more palatable to my parents. And, I think a lot of Black families or immigrant families sometimes don't have the context for artists being able to have like really fruitful careers. And so I wanted to pursue something that had like a little bit more of an ROI. Art Center College of Design is a pretty commercial school and like very connected to industry. So I was able to kind of like make my parents feel a bit more comfortable in that regard. While I was there, I kind of fell in love with painting and also was exposed to product design, which is really an umbrella term for mass produced objects. So things like furniture, like footwear, all of that is kind of what falls under product design. Um, I almost switched to that major, but really loved painting and sort of just took a lot of classes in that and moved into this kind of gray area space called color, material, and finish. So I started working on like patterns and learning how to sew a little bit. My graduation thesis was a women's an inclusive women's brand. Um, I did a additional I ended up doing an additional semester at school. They had an entrepreneurial program where I kind of ideated on my graduation thesis. About 6 months after I graduated from college, I got hired at Under Armour and was moved to the Portland, Oregon office to work on running footwear, which was really exciting for me because, as I mentioned, I ran track from like the age of 9. And so, kind of bridging my two separate worlds was really exciting for me. I worked on some of the like premium product from 2018 to 2021. About a year in, they moved me to the New York office, and I also started working on apparel and integrating my illustration skills to just help cross functional partnerships within the company, like sales and marketing, understand the creative direction for each season. Um, while this was a very cool job, I did start to struggle with just the corporate environment at large, as well as just finding out like I didn't love sitting on a desk. And while it was a creative job, I still didn't feel totally fulfilled. Um, just before the lockdown happened in 2020, I was sort of interviewing for different kind of work and trying to find a way to transition. And I moved to Boston, still working remotely for Under Armour. And about 6 months into lockdown, I did decide to leave my job. I found an illustration contract that kind of helped prompt my exit. But I also really wanted to start my illustration and art practice and figure out what that looked like for me. Like many people, the pandemic kind of shifted perspectives for a lot of people, and it definitely shifted a lot of perspectives for me. Um, and I kind of went back to some of those earlier influences, thinking about my heroes and just their greatness. I love portraiture. I was doing a lot of commission work, and like many Black artists during that time, um, I grew my audience in certain ways. All the while, I had started taking some ceramics classes, um, and I was really just kind of figuring things out on my own because again, this was during the lockdown. A lot of businesses weren't open, so I was just kind of like playing with clay at home, and kind of fumbling through that process. Um, During my 2 years in Boston, and as things kind of shifted with the lockdown, I came across Mudflat Studio, which is in Somerville, and I enrolled in a program that taught technical education around ceramics. So I learned the chemistry of clay. I learned about studio maintenance. I learned how to mix glazes from scratch. Um, and I worked there 10 hours a week, and the exchange was 24-hour access to the space. And this was really helpful for me because I was having a really big shift in my life around like how I wanted to live. I realized that I wanted to live a life that was aligned with my personal values. I also spent a lot of time figuring out what those values actually are. And I really wanted to lean into Afro-Indigenous knowledge. So there was a lot of reading and self-teaching that happened during this time. And I really used my year in this program to sort of be like my own graduate study. So I started to like develop my own voice in ceramics and also just learn about Afro-diasporic history. I also found a Black urban farm in Mattapan, which is an hour south of Boston proper, and took an urban farming training class, which was really amazing. Just really trying to tap into all of the ways in which we as African people, have knowledge of the land and spirit. 2020 was also when Aroko Cooperative kind of came together. We were originally designed to divest. We started as a design task force to support grassroots organizers. So if you remember just all of the sort of uprisings and all of the kind of urgent needs that were happening, we were working to find designers who would lend their services for free to people who were doing frontline work. And over time, we figured out what kind of organization we wanted to be, and we took a lot of different turns trying to figure out how best to work together, with the overarching idea that was that we wanted to highlight and uplift African design as a movement for liberation. Um, I also wanted to show you some of my work. So I do coil building, which is sort of a without the electric wheel, kind of one of the oldest ways to make work. So I coil build the vessels that I make, and then I also sculpt the facial features or adornments onto my pieces. Um, I am a part of the face jug tradition. And, you know, I learned that Afro diasporic pottery kind of has two main buckets that it lives in. So it's either for communal spiritual practice or it's for domestic use. And so those are kind of the two areas, those are kind of the two categories that I focus on in my work. I've primarily leaned into the spiritual and ritual space. I think this is an interesting evolution on um, my interest in the portrait and wanting to, really wanting to see myself in art and reflected in the world, and also just highlight our beauty. I feel like focusing on just certain specific aspects of our portrait is a way of signifying who I'm talking about without being without giving like the full picture. Um, and yeah, I mean, I have had a range of experiences showing my work. I think that is also a part of the journey. I've primarily worked with small business owners and kind of been a bit anti-institution, specifically because historically major museums and galleries have kind of kept us out. And I feel like it's only been in the last 10 years that they've given us a seat at the table. And so it's been really special to be able to work with Black store owners and Black gallerists and curators so that we can craft our own stories. Um, these three pictures at the top left and this central picture at the bottom, um, these pieces I did in 2023. And I was able to take them to Freeze
Chris-
London.
Oh, Kristen, it's
Yeah.
still on the first slide for me.
Oh, uh, let's see. So you're seeing which page?
Kristen, Stain, art design. It's like you haven't started the slideshow.
Oh no, that's not good.
That's okay.
Well, maybe I'll stop sharing and reshare.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's see. Uh, okay, what are you seeing now?
This is perfect. Great. Thank you.
Oh shoot. Okay. Well, I had lots of great images. I'm sorry that they weren't shown. But you can see my pottery on this page.
Yes, fabulous.
Awesome. Um, I'm trying to remember where I was. Um, hmm. Yeah, but oh yes, the top three to the left and the bottom center image are some pieces that I was able to take to London in 2023. Um, for the most part, I've shown my work in Black-owned spaces, women-owned spaces, and finding the right kind of partnerships and venues for my work has also been just an interesting opportunity to craft my practice. I'm really happy that two of the pieces on this page are currently at Wanawari, just a really aligned space as far as values and vision. And then let's see if I can change it to the next page. Can you see the next page here?
Oh, yes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so Black Clay also started in 2023. I was back in California and spending time with my parents in Fresno, but also spending a lot of time in Oakland and trying to figure out kind of where I wanted to be and how I wanted to situate myself. I had started teaching one-day workshops here and there and was given the opportunity to teach a 6-week class in the Diamond District of Oakland. And I spent some time talking to my partner about my experience as a student and as an artist, which has, for the most part, been a very isolating one. Fresno has a pretty small Black population, and it is relatively segregated. And so I grew up in very white spaces. And then when you add in sort of the like prestige of like the higher education spaces that I moved through, that kind of shrunk down even more. And, I was kind of talking about just how I wish that there was more access to art spaces, and there if and hoping that there could be ways to eliminate boundaries for people. And so I felt encouraged to offer a 1-day class for the Black community in Oakland at a reduced rate. Some mentors that I had come across over the years supported the class by donating in case people needed to take the class for free or at a reduced price. And the first class sold out in 1 day. And I got a bunch of emails asking if I could offer another class. And um, in October, it'll be 2 years of me consistently holding this space for people. Um, Most of the students that come to my class are women and gender nonconforming folks. I've also had men, and I've held a class specifically for youth. And a lot of this has been powered by mutual aid. The community wants it to exist. And so I've been able to consistently raise money and offer scholarship. I've held this class at multiple studios in the Bay Area, as well as non-studio spaces. We get clay donated, and snacks and drinks donated. I have students who've come to class 4 and 5 times. And so really what's happening is a community is being built. And I find that this serves my practice because when you look at Afro-Indigenous culture, it's a culture of togetherness and community. And so I feel really grateful that I get to enjoy making work that honors that lineage, and getting to do it with other people. Um, and then most recently, sort of a new piece of my practice is learning how to forage clay and process clay, as well as doing some pit firing experiments, and also kind of looking into the domestic side of Afro-diasporic pottery. Um, I really enjoy being a part of the full life cycle of this medium. I'm also looking to like scale my work and make it larger so that it can um, maybe be public art or kind of like live in community in a much bigger way. Um, but yeah, that's kind of that's me and that's my practice.
Thanks, Kristen. Oh my goodness. Just fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Your show is already a hit. Everybody has been like raving about it, which is amazing. Um, so I've just been so grateful to be able to have your work with us at Wanawari. I was just gonna ask a few more questions, like dig a little deeper. One is like, I really appreciated how you really walked us through these decisions that feel really monumental and well, I'll just say, right, like you decided to go get a practical degree, right? And I feel like I started out in the design program in my art school and then decided to move to art. And so like that's something we're all kind of like afraid of is like how you're going to make a living as an artist and having this side hustle. How do you feel like you're working through that right now in your practice now that you're like, making a lot of ceramics, and what do you think the balance is and how do you keep that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is an aspect of I mean, I'm still doing design work. I'm still working on branding projects, but I think yeah, just being like mindful of like who I'm working with and like what it's for. I've certainly taken, from working at Under Armour, like I've taken a huge, there's been a huge pay cut or shift in my life, but like I really I don't know. I really want to live a life that I enjoy. Like I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to feel valued and respected, and so like feeling, feeling tired at the end of the day because I'm kind of like juggling multiple things uh feels better than like being drained and exhausted and like not necessarily feeling fulfilled with what I'm doing. I've also like been very open to just like pivots, like I've worked hourly jobs in the midst of, all of this journey to support myself and like make it all make sense,
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's and it's something that I'm kind of always evaluating.
no, that's great. Um, One, I want that black clay t-shirt. I was like, that's fire.
Yes.
Um, but you touched on something a lot that I end up talking to people about. In particular, I talk about it in terms of museum spaces. Um, I feel like a lot of Black folks want to create Black institutions that function and look like white institutions. And so I keep having this like conversation about like collections and museums collections in particular, because Black folks on the continent, we used our objects, right? They were ceremonial, like you said, or they were functional. And so I'd love for you to like dig into a little bit more of like not just making objects that are like art for art's sake, but like really holding true to like the intention and the use, the purpose. Yeah, so I'll leave that.
Yeah. I think like the major difference between like art in the Western world and art in the global South is like, yeah, art in the Western world is like property and it's yeah, it's something that um like equates to status or like this is like a signal to like how much wealth I have. Whereas like art in the global South like exists everywhere and is for everyone. You think about like the painted houses in Burkina Faso, right? Like it's just like art is a part of everything and it's for everyone. Um I the objects that I make, yes, they are objects and they're meant to be beautiful objects, but they're also meant to, hold water or sit on your altar or, um, just engage with your daily life. And like my hope is that like the things that I make um are passed down, um, like sit in, in a central part in the house, like is a part of like daily daily life. Um, and I think, when it comes to like selling my work, even, it's like I try to make sure that people can actually have my work. So like when people, I don't have a consistent like online store. I'm not necessarily like on a schedule of like churning out, new items or whatever. When people ask me for something, I want, if people want something, I want to like I want them to have it, And so like there's always like a conversation around like, how we can exchange, It's not like, it's $5,000 or whatever. It's like how can we make this happen, Yeah, and I offer my things at sliding scale. So yeah.
No, I love it. You mentioned that you know and understand the full life cycle of the medium.
Mhm.
And I just found that really fascinating, right? Like I do painting and mosaic stuff and I'm not making tile and I'm not making grout. And so I'd love for you to just elaborate a little bit more on like maybe the history of clay and how you interact, like why it's important for you to know how to like build your own glazes and everything like that.
Yeah. I mean, so clay is like a naturally occurring resource, and like in well indigenous pottery all over the globe, it comes from the ground. Um, and one of the early things that I learned about like African or Black pottery in the United States is that like, during pre-Civil War, like during slavery, like, you know, we were there was like an industrial production of many types of things happening. And in the Carolinas is where like American pottery comes from. There's kaolin in the ground. Kaolin is one of the materials that is a part of clay. There's a high concentration of it in the Carolinas. And so that's where a lot of American pottery is found or was created and produced. Um, and, people associate, slavery with cotton or whatever, but there's lots of material, there's lots of production that was happening um, in that time. And so my face jugs is, in direct relationship to the face jugs that were made by enslaved folks from that area, which has also ties to West Africa and beyond,
Yeah.
But I think, you know, clay is also like a somewhat finite resource, and we live in, this like very fast-paced globalized world, and you can just go to a store and buy clay, and it's something that has been formulated by giant machines and comes from mines in different parts of the world. And I think like at this point, understanding what I know about clay and having the experience of like actually digging by a creek for clay and like going through this long process to get all the dirt and grass out and, mix it appropriately and knead it, and then get to a place where I can actually shape it into one of my pieces. It just completely changes my relationship. I think it's changed my relationship to objects or things that exist in the world in general, because like understanding how much it took to get to, this pot that's second from the left on the screen, it's like everything around us like has ashe and has come from somewhere, right? And so it's just, I don't know if I'm answering your question
No,
fully.
you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's really just kind of mind-blowing to think about it. And I think it allows me to like move more intentionally through the world and like have like regard for, you know, things and people and, everything around me.
Oh my gosh, love it. Well, my final question, Kristen, you can see Kristen's work up at Wanawari through September 21st. And I really highly recommend that you do. But the way you place the objects, the ceramics around in the gallery was really interesting and really tying into the uses and purposes that you're talking about. So I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on what people will see when they come to Wanawari.
Yeah, yeah. I guess so. One of the things, I kind of generally mentioned that I've done a lot of self-teaching around like Afro indigenous practices and ways of being. And a major part of that has also been like learning about African spirituality, because again, African pottery is for spiritual practice if it's not for making a stew. And my
And
in the
being, and a major part of that has also been like learning.
and in the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time learning about Ifa and yeah, just been really grateful, really, really grateful for the guidance in the principles of Ifa and understanding like um, the Orishas, which are the divine forces of nature. It's God expressed through nature, essentially. And so when you come in, I've really created like a couple of like shrines, and that's just my way of like offering thanks to that knowledge, to that divinity. And so there are three in particular. One is to Elegua, who is the door opener and the messenger to the divine. Um, that's by the fireplace. And then Ogun, who's found in the forests and like works on our behalf and protects us. And then Yamaya, who is the mother, the ocean. And she's just always creating abundance for us. And so I have created spaces specifically for the three of them as gratitude, as big, big gratitude, to continue to be able to like make art and survive and be in community with people who value what I'm doing and like respect me and are also valuing the lives of people that they're around. Wanawari is doing that, and I feel really, really grateful to like be able to show my work in a space that offers to community in the way that I want my work to offer to community. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. So thank you for joining with us. And you can follow Wanawari. You can go to our website, wanawari.org, and sign up for our email list, or go check us out on Wanawari's Instagram or Facebook pages for our events and workshops. Hope to see you all soon.